single of that card for like 50 cents on Amazon.
Don't worry. I believe in the heart of the cards.
For the final part of this podcast, we'll be going over a archetype or deck spotlight. And for this episode, it would be Lightsworn. And as you already guessed from our name, 60 Card Bricks, we are both really huge fan of the Lightsworn archetype. We like to draw 5 monsters and can't do anything in our 60 card decks.
Yes.
So we'll be going over Lightsworn, the mill engine that start everything's up. So Lightsworn was introduced in Light of Destruction pack, which was released May 13 of 2008. It started off very strong with the light monsters, all the light monsters, and not the Twilight Sworn monsters that were introduced later. The deck, as you all know, focused on milling until the introduction of Twilight Sworn, a sub-archetype that mirror the Lightsworn by banishing on top of the deck instead of milling. And the signature monsters are Judgment Dragon and Minerva, which are the two very iconic monsters of our game. Like Judgment Dragon, who doesn't know it?
Yeah. Judgment Dragon is, for a long time, was one of the most powerful boss monsters in the game. I think it's, at this point, would you say it's been power crept at this point?
Yes, it has been power
Yeah.
crept because it doesn't have a quick effect on its,
Exactly.
on its attacks.
Yeah. And then Minerva, Minerva's Minerva.
It's even more iconic because it's a price card. Like
Yep.
everybody knows it, everybody wants it, but only a handful
Yep.
were available. So, and next we'll be going over the meta history. So I guess we'll take like one period as a time.
Yep. All right. So starting in 2008, the archetype started out pretty strong because it had Raikou and Celestia,
Nostalgia.
which both had very powerful removal effects, obviously. And yes, they're pretty slow and not as powerful today.
Yeah, they're really slow right now, but like Raikou, when
At
this
the
flip
time.
pop 1, mill 3, Celestia, pop 2, mill 4, that's
Yeah.
like insane back
Yes,
then.
exactly. And you combine that with a very powerful boss monster in Judgment Dragon, and obviously Wolf and Jane. In that format, I mean, that's you just have so much utility there. You have the removal, you have the just sheer attack power, and then you have the boss monster to finish it off. We think of these things as slow at that point, but then that was pretty fast.
Yeah, also the introduction of Lumina.
Yes.
Like Monster Revival was like strictly like it's just Monster Reborn back then basically.
Exactly.
But now you have a
monster that
a
can do it.
monster that can revive. And then like back then I'm pretty sure people knew about the Lumina loop as well.
Yes.
So like you can swarm the field really easily. And for the listener who doesn't know what Jane does because he's so power crap right now, he is a level 4 1800 attack. And his effect is he gains 300 attack in the deck if he's attacking. So that is a 2100 beater that can be normal summon, which is amazing at that point. Also, one more thing that kind of is underrated is Erin, the Lightsworn monk. She's 1700, but her good effect is that she just, when she attack a face down monster, she can return it immediately to the deck. So it's not triggering flip effect, which is huge at that at that time.
Exactly. Again, at that time, flip effects were actually like a thing. So
Flip effect, battle traps.
yeah, so it was a way to kind of avoid those kind of things, and it was definitely one that you would at least play a copy in your deck at the time, especially when we get a little more support in Duelist Genesis, which gave us Charge of the Light Brigade and Lightsworn Saber. Charge of the Light Brigade, I mean...
Everybody knows this card.
Yeah.
On the ban list at 1 for like 5
So long.
years, from March 2010 to April 15. And finally moving to... after that, it's moved to semi-limited, and finally just 1 year ago, it's at 3. Like... the period of being in the ban list was 7 years. That's how strong and ridiculous the card is.
And the fact that like the milling is the cost, and it's like most of the time that's what you want anyway. It's just, the card is so dumb.
Like you don't care if you get Ash. Like
yeah,
you'd
exactly.
be like,
Even
please,
today,
please
exactly.
Ash this.
And then Lightsworn Saber, another card that's definitely been power crept at this point.
Oh yeah, but like.
But at the
Well, not a lot of people know. Like not a lot of people play nowadays know this. But like when it's an equipped spell that can only be equipped to a Lightsworn monster, and the equipped monster gains 700 attack, which at the time huge. And I mean 700 attacks for equipped even nowadays is still pretty good.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it is that when it gets milled from the deck, you can equip it to a Lightsworn monster. This makes your Lumina a 1700 level 3 that if you're not getting rid of next turn, you can get way more advantage out of her. And it's just amazing as a 1-F for 2-F.
Yeah. So Lightsworn, it wasn't the best deck, obviously, at that time, but because... Teledad and, and Glad Beast. But it was just, it was definitely...
Even for Lightsworn, those decks were too fast. Card of Save Return. Draw one every single time. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason why it's bad now. And, Teledad with its Synchro Madness, just get 3 Dark Monster, and then you can special Dark Arm Dragon.
Oh, Teledad.
And then, oh my gosh, no, we thought Lightsworn was fast, but Gladiator Beast gave us Test Tiger. I don't know if a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners would know this, but Test Tiger is a special summon from hand, which take the role of a Glad Beast monster. Mm-hmm. So you can go for Gizaris first turn and pop 2 cards. Not even Lightsworn could do that. You still have to wait a turn for the Celestia, or you get super lucky with Solar Recharge and Charge. But yeah, those are just very fast deck.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Moving on to the next era, we have 2009,
yes,
the Rise of Twilight.
Yes, this was my deck back then. Twilight,
same.
not as the meaning of Twilight Sworn like people know today, but Twilight as in light with dark.
Mm-hmm.
And as the name suggests, you would play the Lightsworn engine with a dark monster that benefits from being in the graveyard, like Plague Spreader Zombie, the Blackwing, the Blackwing monster, and then you can normal the level 2 Blackwing to make immediately a level 6 synchro.
Yep.
All of that to take advantage of Chaos Sorcerer, which were recently unbanned to 2. And Chaos Sorcerer back then was a legit boss monster because you get once per turn removal of a boss monster. It's easy to summon with the style of the deck because it's a 1 light, 1 dark. And of course, Judgment Dragon is still a terrifying boss monster, especially because back then we still have a thing called Ignition Effect and Priority. And for the viewer, for the listener who doesn't know, the Ignition and Priority means that the turn players always get to use the effect before the opposing player can chain anything. So imagine if your opponent has a bottomless trap hole set, and then you special Judgment Dragon, and then you set turn player priority. You set pay 1,000 to destroy every single card in the field. Your opponent will not have the timing to activate bottomless trap hole because the timing of the summon is already gone, and then Judgment will just clear the field. So that's why Judgment was super strong back then. Yep. This version of Lightsworn Twilight had great success as it catapults the archetype to become one of the best deck of the year, topping multiple Shonen Jump Championships, which is the equivalent back then of today's YCS, Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series. And now we move on to the 2010, the dark period.
Yes, Charge and Lumina were both limited. Obviously, that takes away the power being Lumina and the consistency being Charge. Lightsworn. I mean, Lightsworn remained relevant because milling is always going to be a powerful tool.
It remains at a as an okay rogue option.
Yes.
Yeah.
It did remain relevant even in this, as you call it, dark period. But then the Infernity deck, and especially with Infernity Barrier, kind of just blew it out of the water. Blew everything out of the water.
A almost solemn judgment with just like there's a cost, but like you always will have Infernity on your field. Like it's an Omni Negate that is searchable at 3. Who can place to 3 Solemn Judgment? It's yeah, that's
not fair.
Yeah, and the dark period extend from 2011 to 2013 because more new stuff are being out, and of course, knowing Konami, like it's a tradition to power creep everything. So yeah.
Yeah.
But we did get new support in 2014, which brings us probably the face of the main deck right now, Raiden.
Yes, came out in a structure deck, I believe. Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a level 4 tuner, 1700 attack, and just it was it the first Lightsworn monster that could mill just during the main phase and not during the end phase?
It still is with Minerva.
Yeah. Which just, I mean, that took, Lightsworn was already relatively for the time it came out, it was pretty fast. This brought it to another level of speed. And obviously Dragon Rulers were a thing around that time as well. So this combined with Dragon Rulers, which everything combined with Dragon Rulers. Then of course later that year, you get Eclipse Wyvern, which just adds to the whole Dragon Ruler variant of the Lightsworn thing, and it made Judgment Dragon searchable.
Yes. For the I know you play Chaos Dragon, so
yes,
you would be the better one to explain its effect to.
Basically, when Eclipse Wyvern is sent to the graveyard, is it sent from deck to graveyard or just sent
to the graveyard?
When Eclipse Wyvern is sent to the graveyard, you banish a level 7 or 8 light or dark dragon type monster, and then when Eclipse Wyvern is banished from the graveyard, you add whatever monster you banished with its effect to your hand.
Yes. So basically, you will banish Judgment Dragon, and then you would use the the Dragon Rulers to banish it from the graveyard, and then you have 2 Judgment Dragon in your hand. It's very good. Yeah.
Yes, very very good.
And I think even though the priority was removed from the game, then Judgment Dragon was still relatively really good because it's comparable to Excited Knight, which is, it's just very good.
Yeah, and I obviously, like you said, I did play Chaos Dragons, which there were definitely variants of that relied more on the Lightsworn side of things as well, so that's definitely something to keep in mind too. All right, moving on to the 2015-2016 era, the annihilation of Dragon Rulers. When Dragon Rulers finally kind of made their way fully onto the ban list and faded into history, the Lightsworn faded with them, unfortunately.
Yes.
Having charge did go back to 2, which certainly helped, but it just wasn't quite enough.
It was just a sign from Konami, give us another charge, because they know it wouldn't do too much.
Yeah.
And I still don't know why they would wait so long for 3, but we did get the Minerva that year though.
Yes. Well, we got
the introduction. We didn't get the card. Yes. Yeah. On August 30th of that year, the Minerva Exalted Lightsworn was introduced as a prize card for YCS, ultra rare and super rare. With Raiden is the only monster in the.
There are other...
Curious. Yeah.
Yeah.
With Curious, also with Curious, but so those 3, with those 3 are like the one that you can mill in the main phase, and she's really nice because she mills 3, not 2, and the second part of that effect is that if you mill a Lightsworn monster, you would draw a card.
Generates advantage.
Yeah, I've seen AJ milling 3 and draw 3. Against you even, if I remember it correctly.
Yep.
Ah, that must feel good.
No, yeah, mills 3, and then of course when it's destroyed, it also kind of. I mean, it mills 3 when it's destroyed, and then if it hits Lightsworn monsters, it destroys cards. And doesn't target, and it's just insane. Yeah. It's just a good card.
Yes, and the introduction alone actually brought back like 40, 50, or 50 card Lightsworn, but then, as we all know, like we need Minerva to play it, and I only knew like JY Sharif, who the Lightsworn legend, JY Sharif actually had the card and played the Lightsworn version to top some regional back then. But overall, like the deck didn't really do too much.
I mean, look, it was so important. It became so important to the strategy that it became basically known as Minerva Sworn.
Yes.
It's just like that. Even with the so little access, that's what it became. Like, it was Minerva Sworn. It wasn't even Lightsworn anymore. It's just the card was so important.
But we rejoice on 2017. A year ago.
How is it only a year ago? And it's okay. Well, I'm gonna get my feelings on this section here.
Yep.
So we have the introduction of That Grass Looks Greener, and it basically changed Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
That Grass Looks Greener. Basically, okay. Obviously, the minimum amount of cards you can have in the deck is 40. The maximum is 60. Nobody since the early days of the game have ever come close to playing 60 until That Grass Looks Greener came out. It changed the way people deck build.
Yeah.
Basically, if you somehow don't know what this card does, it basically mills cards from the top of your deck so that you have the same amount of cards in your deck as your opponent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it basically gave you the flexibility and kind of gave some variance to the game where people were playing 60-card decks just so they could draw into grass, mill 20 cards, and just go off.
Yeah. As I like to say, like modern Yu-Gi-Oh is the graveyard is basically the second hand.
Yes.
And with the release of grass at 3 at that time, like every single strategy that is graveyard reliance just got a big boost. Like Paleozoic, Lightsworn, BA. Like it was just grass basically for a amount of time, and then of course it did get limited like soon after.
Yes.
Not too long after.
Now, but another thing to add on to this is I think grass is very important to mention in tandem, especially when I started arguing about why grass shouldn't be banned. Grass needs to be mentioned in tandem with Fairy Tale Snow.
Definitely, the infamous
Fairy Tale
duel.
Snow, banishing 7 cards from your graveyard or on the field or in the hand technically, to summon it and then Book of Mooning something.
Not a once per turn, not a once per chain.
Yeah,
insane.
As we know, not once per chain. It's just Fairy Tale Snow to me is the real problem here. I don't think grass.
The great debate: grass or snow.
Yeah,
I think we both agree that the OCG has it right.
Yes.
With grass at 3 and snow at 1.
Yes. So that became obviously those two cards together just turned into 60-card bricks.
Yes, as we all know.
Yes, obviously it becomes more 60-card bricks once grass does get limited, but
just because of the release of Minerva, and we actually have access to it. July 2017, Secret Rare and Battle Legends Light Revenge. Yes. Everybody rejoice.
Yes, the 60-card variant of this deck. The funny thing is, like, it's a Lightsworn deck.
People are really mad about this, which, I mean, I guess I understand, but, like, it's also very Lightsworn centric.
Yes.
But still, the engine is just way too small in a 60-card deck that people don't like to call it being Lightsworn, because some people were playing 3 charge, 2 Raiden, or like, and 3 Wolves, or like some like JY Sharif believes in recharge in 60-card, which I don't know how. I don't know why. But that man said it's statistically correct, and I still don't know why. It opens up the Lightsworn to be a mill engine in a 60 card deck to take advantage of, even though 1 copy of Grass being supported by 3 copies of Left Hand Offering.
Yep. And then obviously Charge came back to 3, and then Curious.
Very big card.
That card is insane. Curious.
I can read the
Yeah,
effect.
go for it.
Link 3, 2400 attack light. 3 monsters with the same attribute but different types. If this face-up card is destroyed by battle or leaves the field because of an opponent card effect, while its owner controls it, you can target 1 card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Like, that's already is absurd enough.
Yes.
It's 1 card, not monster card. 1 card. Adding Soul Charge. Game. You can only use each following effects of Curious, the Lightsworn Dominant, once per turn. If this card is Link Summon, you can send 1 card from your deck to the graveyard. Hello?
1 card? Okay.
Again? Lavabo Chain? Insane.
So stupid.
But Konami did make it right by having the very it's a high restriction on actually summoning the card because you need 3 monsters. If it was just 2 monsters, oh boy, this card would be so broken. And finally, if a card is sent from your deck to your graveyard by an effect, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. This is like the effect of the Twilight Sworn. If the Lightsworn effect goes off, they would go off also. But this is more, flexible, since it can be anything. A Foolish Burial, you can trigger Curious. And Curious itself can trigger Curious. Yeah. So
essentially on summon, you're sending 4 cards to the grave. 1 purposely, 1 or 3 randomly.
4. I've always laughed when people go ogre my Curious because it would be a searcher for Soul Charge. People didn't know, but I was having fun. I was also going to be 3-0 during the regionals that we went to. If I had remembered to call my Chainlink on Curious for Soul Charge, but I didn't, and I lost that game to a Yosenju Kaiju, and I'm still pretty mad about that.
Yeah. So this deck basically just evolved into, because of Grass being limited, you had to play the left arms, and obviously you started to play other things to basically turbo out Brilliant Fusion, because Brilliant Fusion is also very powerful in the deck.
Yes.
And the way to do that, obviously, is the Plant Engine.
Yes.
The Plant Engine.
The added benefit of CC card is that it actually reduced the brickiness.
True. You don't have to... Okay, so the Plant Engine. So you have 3 Lone Fire, Blossom, 3 Scorpio, obviously 1 discard fodder. Then you summon the other Predaplant. It searches you Brilliant Fusion. You overlay into...
Invoker.
Invoker summons Thousand Blades. Then you...
Link to
Mrs. Radiant. Activate Brilliant. Brilliant resolves, and you send Trick Clown, and obviously Garnet. Summons Seraph Knight. Trick Clown summons itself. Thousand Blades summons itself. And then you basically have a couple of options.
A lot of options.
You have a lot of options.
You have the War because you have another extra normal summon.
Yes. You have a normal summon. You have 2 level 4s on field. You have the material to go into Curious if you wanted to.
And 1 extra Link Zone also.
Yep. There's just so many different routes you can go at that point, and it honestly depends on the variant you're playing.
Yeah, like Minerva, Curious, Saryuja. I think that's like the 3 most like.
Yep, Saryuja is an option too.
Or like you can just normal summon the Zombie Engine.
Yes.
You normal summon. Why am I forgetting?
Solitaire
to get Uni-Zombie, and then you just fuse. You just sync for Omega immediately with the level 5 and level 3, and then you can easily like triple Omega that turn.
Yep. Which is quite good. And then obviously there's another variant, which is the Dino variant. And Dino, I am an advocate for the Dino engine in this deck because you can go in on the zombie plays as well. That's an option. You can do some synchro summoning, but also you get to end on an Ultimate Conductor Tyranno.
Which is an absurd card.
Yes. Basically, the easiest way to do it is you summon the Curious, then you send Overtex.
Yeah.
Overtex adds double evolution, activate double evolution, summon out Ultimate Conductor, or another Overtext, depending on which route you wanted to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes I would say that first turn Overtext on field is not a bad thing.
Well, myself, I like the zombie Omega spam better because I think that getting cards out of your opponent's hand is always the most optimal play of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Like what we're doing now with Gamblar and Goki.
True.
Back then, some extremists would play 3 Omega, and just your opponent would just be playing with 3 cards.
Yep.
But I only play 2. But yeah,
I
ending
played
with
3 Omega.
and ending with 2 Omega is still very good because you have 2 2800 beaters that dodges everything that the opponent can do.
Recycles your Mizuki.
While also recycling and ripping cards out of your opponent's hand.
It's crazy.
Which is very good.
Yeah. Fun deck. So, where do we stand today? Grass is banned, unfortunately, which leaves us with a very interesting set of options if you still want to play this deck. There's the 40 card Minerva Turbo, Minerva Pass, as you can say.
Yes, Minerva Pass. You win with like hand traps in your hand, and you're trying to just fill the grave with for snow to do its job. So it's simple, but
kind of a control version of it. Yeah.
It loses to less hand trap than the full blown version, which
yes,
you still advocate.
I look. The thing is, and this is my argument, and I know there's a lot of people who would just say, that's stupid, why would you do that? I say you can still play the 60-card variant of this deck. Because the thing is, when you're playing the 60-card version of the deck with 1 grass and the left arms, a lot of the time, most of the time you're resolving the plan engine.
Yes.
You're not resolving grass the majority of your games. You're resolving the plan engine the majority of your games.
Grass is like the backup when you get hand trap on the plan.
Exactly. So I still think that the game plan's still there. It's still like an option in the deck. It's still the option in the deck. Now you just don't have that backup plan, quote unquote. Which my thought process is, look, it was a 4-card engine before because you played the 3 left arms and you played the grass. You could just throw in some Omega or throw in some Gammas in there, and then there you have extra hand traps to combat your opponent. And also, Gamma still has great synergy in that deck because there's so many things that trigger off or that activate their effects by tributing themselves and get them off the field. So, if they ash your Solitaire, if they ash your Lone Flyer, you're still in an okay place if you have Gamma in your hand. So I still think the deck is playable as 60 cards. As silly as that sounds without grass.
Yeah, I can definitely see that, but then it's also much more fragile.
Yes.
Since
you don't have grass
if you get hand trap, your turn just stopped. That's why I'm more of a safe faction where if I get hand trap in my Minerva Swan, at least I can make a Minerva, and then I have the I have the opportunity to mill 3 cards and maybe pop some cards from your opponent with that. Yeah, and again, we have to shout out to our boy AJ. We love you. But he's playing a 45 cards Lightsworn ABC. When he goes off, he goes off.
Yes.
I gotta say that. He ends with like maybe sometimes double ABC and Skull Dread and Minerva, which is amazing feel. Sometimes he decked out himself. He did that to me once. I won, and I didn't even do a lot because he decked himself out playing 45 cards, just milling. And sometimes he breaks horribly. But it's still a version, and it's still quite viable, like knowing the track record of AJ. So shout out to you, bro.
There you go, AJ. What are some tech cards that if there is somebody interested in playing the deck, what are some tech cards that you would recommend?
Lightsworn is actually quite a good deck to get in, like for beginners to actually get into.
I've definitely taught somebody playing Lightsworn before.
Because it involves so many aspects of the game, like milling, and you have the rank 4 for Exceed, you have the Synchro in Michael, and then you have the Link in Curious. Basically, there's everything, a bit of everything there. And very importantly, the resource management with snow. Like you only get an X amount of snow. You better snow correctly. And a correct snow can actually win you the game, like we have been playing. For the tech cards, these are some quite silly one. 2 out of 3, I have to shout out again to my boy AJ. He's the innovator. He's the one that plays interesting cards. So the first one, Lightsworn Judgment, it's a trap card. Place its effect. Place this card on top of the deck. So if you draw it, it's a -1, which is pretty bad. But the second effect, if this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard by a Lightsworn monster effect, you can add 1 Judgment Dragon from your deck to your hand. So like how we said about the Lightsworn Rulers. Searchable Judgment Dragon, I honestly don't know how it would fare in this meta, but Judgment Dragon is still a very good card. 1,000, blow up the field, 3,000 attack, easy way to summon. My concern is that you need 4 Lightsworn, unique Lightsworn name in the graveyard to special, which can be hard to actually do if you don't play enough in your deck. But we also have Minerva and Curious from the extra deck, so and Curious can send this card and immediately get the Judgment Dragon. So it is a interesting card that I might be citing going first to just try to get Judgment Dragon into my hand as a follow-up play for the next turn. The second card, Needlebug's Nest, another -1, but its effect is to send the top 5 cards from the deck to your graveyard. I think it has a place in Minerva Sworn, where you don't really bank on an explosive first turn to make Curious, Omega, but you just play normally with hand traps in your hand and a Minerva, Minerva pass, of course. If you saw this going first and you saw it, it's 6 extra card for Snow, which sometimes can be really, really good.
Chainable.
Chainable also. So you can bait out back row removers. And if your turn is, if your opponent it's not life threatening, you can wait to the graveyard. You can wait to the end phase, do this, and then you will get the full effect from all your wolf. So I think this is very niche, but also quite okay. And the last one, do you want to do it?
Fiend Comedian?
Yeah.
All right, Fiend Comedian. Toss a coin, or it's a normal trap card. Toss a coin and call it. If you call it right, all of your opponent's cards in the graveyard are removed from play immediately. If you call it wrong, send a number of cards equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyard from the deck to your hand. Or from the deck to your graveyard, excuse me.
Okay, I just want to say that this card is so old. First of all, it has removed from play in its name.
Yes.
it is card effect. And second of all, I'm looking at it, it's released in 2003.
That is insane.
And it's actually, I don't want to say it, but pretty legit in some matchup.
Yeah.
Some matchup where the Lightsworn mirror is very funny with this.
It's weird. Yes, the Lightsworn mirror definitely. It's like you want to call it wrong.
You don't care if you call it right though, because it's still very good, banishing everything.
Yeah, I guess. I guess it depends on the deck you're playing against, because some decks they don't really care, but there are a lot of decks that this would definitely impact in a major way. So
shout out to my boy Quinn. He reminded me of this card 2 days ago, and I just put it in here because it's clowny, but it's good.
It's funny.
Do you have any wish list for the ban list, or any support that you would want to see? Because this is definitely a legacy archetype.
Yes.
Everybody knows Lightsworn, so it will get support in the future.
Yes. Obviously, grass coming back would be amazing. I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon, unfortunately. But that's just I love the 60 card variant of this deck, and I want it to be competitive and legitimate.
Painful choice to 1.
That would be amazing. If that happened, I'd probably be playing Chaos Dragons, to be honest.
Or 6 cents to 1.
Yeah. None of these things are ever gonna happen.
No, but Yeah, I just like to see more like main deck monster that can actually mill
That
in
was
the
my
main
next thing
phase.
as well.
Yeah, like Raiden is like, it doesn't have to be like OP like Raiden, but yeah, like either that or a level 4 that can special summon itself
That would be
for
great.
the deck,
Yes.
just to make Minerva like very consistently.
Exactly.
And also, please do not make it a Beast Warrior. Because we have Wolf and we have Felice, and we need different types so that we can make Curious.
Exactly.
The amount of time where I have 2 Felice and a Wolf is frustrating. I still had to go into Minerva. Yeah.
Fair enough. That is crazy. But yeah, that's basically all I got. I mean, grass is my biggest wish for this deck. And like you said, I think there's a couple of main deck monsters that they could use, but grass is all I really need
Or like
in my life.
Or like a spell version of Needlebug's Nest, which might be OP.
True. Yeah.
It's a -1, but you get to mill cards.
Yeah.
So it's like, it has to be more than charge. Because if not...
If you're not searching.
Actually, if it's 3, will you still play it? I think I would still play it.
Maybe. Are you
Definitely.
playing that on top of 3 charge, though? Like,
Yeah, definitely on my Minerva Sworn, because... Especially if it's not once per turn, I'll play 3, because I don't actually care if you go -1, you just want to set up your grave.
Yeah.
But...
Maybe. Yeah, that's definitely an option. I don't know. I just... The deck's in such a weird place right now without grass. I don't want to play the 40 card version.
I know. You're like... Yeah, you're a combo player.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for this episode. And we'll be back. See you next time.